Showycolt63. Sorry that we did not record this earlier. That was 100% my fault. I did not realize that Twitch did not automatically check off the box to save VODs. So, we're going to do one that is going to be probably significantly shorter than a normal VOD review would be. I apologize for that, but we've already watched it once. We already know what our recommendations are going to be, so we're going to give you some examples and some instances of those recommendations, where you can apply them, what you need to be worried about, but we're not going to belabor the point. So we've basically taken, in the original review, we boiled it down to just a couple of recommendations that are going to, we think, most specifically help you kind of rank up and level up, so you aren't overwhelmed, first of all, and can apply them fairly easily. Yeah, so with me is Suki. Suki is you're playing ADC for us this year, right? This semester at least. Yeah, so Suki is our ADC for our varsity team. Pretty strong League of Legends player just in general. Has 10 years of experience. So the other voice you hear will be Suki. All right, I'm gonna hit play. You please feel free to go as you see fit. If you want me to skip ahead once we kind of get through a point, please let me know. All right, Suki. We could probably skip all of Champ Select.
Yeah, load screen would be a good place to start, just to talk about the itemization and the runes.
Yep.
So one of the big things I noticed was that you have a preset build page for items for Jhin, and that you always tend to take Dark Harvest. Lethality is actually very suboptimal on Jhin right now. It's much better to go either Gale Force or Shield Blood depending on the comp, and then versus all squishies you can go RFC, and then versus tanks you go Lord Doms. In this game, the best thing for you to go would have been Fleet Footwork rune page with Resolve secondary with Second Wind for the poke you're going to deal with in lane, and then built into a shield bow to stop yourself from getting one shot by Caitlyn, Lux, and Zed, into LDR for Gragas and Ornn. The other thing I noticed was that you started Doran's Blade versus poke lanes like this. You want to start Longsword into 3 potions so you can survive the laning phase. So just make sure that you are actively thinking about what your items and runes are doing for you in each given game. There is never a set page that is good for a champion in every single game. It will always change. If you watch high-level players, they are always adapting their rune pages every single game and their item builds every single game. But that's about it on that point. The other point we wanted to mention was, and one of the big tips we have for you going forward in getting good at League of Legends and progressing at League of Legends, is to turn your chat off. Just straight up go to your settings and turn it off. It is not beneficial. It has never helped anyone in any scenario ever to have chat on, especially in solo queue. It should be fully disabled if you want to improve. There are multiple times in this game, maybe we'll come across them, but I'm sure you might remember them, where you stopped to type or stopped to look at top lane or stopped to just in general be upset at the chat or what was going on. And that's not to say that you're not valid in being upset when your Zac, runs top lane level 1 for fun.
Or in the other VOD that you had where it's Tristana that's counter jungling level 1, right?
But it's not conducive to improvement to be focusing on anything other than yourself. It does not matter what anyone else did in your game. For instance, as we'll go through in this game was actually quite good for you. And if you were ready to take advantage of the opportunities that were gifted to you, this game, you could have actually gotten very, very ahead of this game, despite being 1v2 early on in the lane. So just disable your chat. It's not worth worrying about people like this. Just focus on yourself. The other thing we wanted to talk about was the CSing. Your CSing in this game is very suboptimal. I think it is not absurd to insinuate that a gold or a platinum player would have 7 CS a minute in this game, and someone like myself or a professional player would easily have 10. They actually give you a lot of CS in this lane and let you go with a lot of pressure in this lane, especially when Lux starts going top lane. So my personal recommendation for that, we'll talk a little bit more on it later, is to practice CSing in a custom game. But yeah.
Can you talk about
The
the matchup a little bit, Suki, and why it's actually like a little bit beneficial that Zach is top? I know it's not optimal, and it is, a different. It's different than normal meta or the way that you would expect a game to kind of be played, but why that might actually have helped?
So it doesn't help being 2v1 here.
Sure.
You did mess up the wave with you level 1, you attempt to contest push. You should just let it push into you to try and CS under tower. Contesting push just gets you killed in 1v2s. And then you should know bot lane, it takes 6 minions, specifically 1 full wave and then 3 melees to hit level 2. So you should know as they're killing the first 3 melees of that second wave that they are going to hit level 2. So when you walk up and you die at level 2 there, that was entirely predictable, and you could have just waited for them to crash into your tower and caught the wave. But once Lux starts pathing towards top lane and it becomes a neutral lane with you versus Caitlyn, it's actually quite decent for you because Caitlyn's a champion that relies on setup to really facilitate her poke and pressure play. And there are a few instances in this lane where you actually could have caught up or even gained a lead through trades very easily from the way they had played it.
I'm gonna pull back just a little bit here, just because I thought this was one of those instances where you're focused a little bit too heavily on what is happening in top lane, or with your the other players on your team, and instead, if you were a little bit more focused on your lane, you could be taking advantage of kind of what's happening there, maybe doing a better job of CSing under tower or something to that effect. So you can see you're just like up here looking at top lane, watching them fight this Gragas, instead of prepping the wave by reducing some of those minions' HP so that you can CS a little bit better.
Yeah, and you missed a melee for it. The other thing I wanted to mention as an ADC, you never play in this corridor versus Lux Caitlyn. Never, ever, ever. You do this in mid lane too, where I know that this like nook in between the tower and a wall feels like really cozy. It makes you feel like there's like you have 2 less sides that you could get ganked from. But realistically, all it does is the enemy team knows now that you can't dodge side to side, so they can just hit you with everything. You very, very, very rarely ever want to play in this nook. And it seems to be something that you've made a habit of. So especially versus lanes like Varus Karma, Jhin Karma, Jhin Vel'Koz, Caitlyn Lux, lanes that have range and skill shots, don't play in this nook. It is very, very bad. And you find that out here, but you continue to do it throughout the game. So just make sure you are taking notice of what enemy champions are doing in reaction to where you're positioning. And if it looks like they're really happy that you just walked there, think about why that would be. The other thing I wanted to talk about, throughout this game, you have enough gold for a control ward, and you very rarely buy one. I think if ever, like here, you can just buy a control ward. There's no reason not to. You know your limited bot lane. You know there's a chance you might get dove bot lane. Just buy a control ward, place it in your tri brush, place it in the river brush, somewhere that's going to help prevent you from being dove or blind Lux queued. Here, this was really bad. You should be looking at the bot tower and walking straight to it so that you can potentially W a cannon or a melee if they're in range, and also so you know what the minions look like so you can set them up properly once you get there.
And one of the things I think that you'll probably learn over the course of time is like that didn't seem like much, right? Like you lost a minion there. One of the range minions died. You didn't get the CS for it, and that doesn't seem like a lot, right? It's just like, well, I just missed a minion. It's not that big of a deal. But when you do that every single wave for an entire game, you're losing a ton of minions, right? So even though it seems small, and it might be something like, oh, you should just path straight bot and not worry necessarily about what's happening in jungle or backing up or anything like that. Like your number one, maybe not number one goal, but one of your top goals are going to be CS as much as possible, and even losing one or two here and there will eventually add up.
Yeah. The CS expectations will change based on game, and it's important to analyze situation to situation, like how much CS can I reasonably expect to have. But like I mentioned before, in this game, you reasonably could have expected with the pressure they exerted on you, or lack thereof, reasonably could have expected to have 8 to 9 CS a minute if you were CSing properly, and pathing properly. This one of the things I wanted to mention, you don't place traps. Place your traps. You don't have to place both of them, but always make sure it's at least on cooldown. You don't want to have 2 in your inventory just sitting there doing nothing. Right now, you should be going to ward because you're crashing the wave. You know you can't hit the tower. You should go ward your tri-brush. You should throw a trap in that bush beneath you so that you'll know if Lux comes back down to bot lane, she'll probably walk through that brush. You'll get vision of her and you'll know, okay, I'm back in a 1v2. And you should have a ward above you so that you know if you're getting ganked or not. There's nothing else you can do with the time. You're just standing there in front of the tower, so it's just a waste of time not to ward. Here, actually, this was a good opportunity where you can actually just trade on Caitlyn if you were being more aware of the fact that Lux was top lane. Caitlyn in a minion wave actually loses fast trades to you if you walk up auto Q W auto, especially if you have 4-shot up. You definitely could have been trading on her here, especially when she's using her cooldowns on the wave constantly. Like for instance, that was a free trade. You also want to be making sure that you're popping your potion. Like whenever you're trading something like that much HP, you want to be popping your potion. And then this, again, is one of those moments we're talking about where you S key behind your tower and start typing, and you're about to eat full damage Caitlyn Q to the forehead for 400 damage here. So we just want to turn chat off. There's, this was really, really brutal. And then also you had heal here, and you could have killed her. If you placed a trap beneath her feet to slow her so that she had to take one more shot while walking out of tower, if you healed, and if you just played it better and weren't so focused on your Zac being top lane, that's actually just a free kill, and you get to catch that whole wave for free, and you're actually in quite a good spot moving past this point of the game. So we want to make sure that we're using all the resources we have at our expense, whether it be heal, flash, E, to place traps under her feet, to give ourselves the best chance of getting the kills, and especially collecting crash waves on tower. And we want to make sure that we are focused on ourselves and what we can do within the game, and not what other people are doing and how they're limiting us. Because this game actually, despite what Zac did, which is troll, despite what he did, this game was actually very, very, very good for you. And this matchup at its base level, Jhin Zac into Kate Lux, if this was played between 4 challenger players, you actually lose harder than this. So you were actually gifted quite a good lane, despite the matchup. So we wanted to make sure that we're taking advantage of those things and not limiting ourselves in those ways. And obviously, you can tell looking at this, like I was saying, your CSing is quite poor. You don't seem to really know or understand how much damage anything you do does. You don't know when your Q kills, you don't know when your W kills, you don't know when to place traps or how to use them to push wave, and you don't know how much damage your 4-shot does.
That is kind of one of those things, too, that, you will learn with time and experience, right? If you just play the same champ enough, you will start to learn, okay, I know that at this point in the game, I can reasonably kill a minion in 2 shots, right? Or 1 shot. I really need to be focused on last hitting because I do very little damage at this point in the game. So just with more time, some of that will come, but it's really a matter more of being focused and not being tilted, I think, that is going to help the most.
Yeah, and here you place a ward in that brush. It's pretty useless. You could have just placed a trap for the same effect to know if someone's in the bush or not in the future, and use your ward more proactively towards the tri-brush, because Caitlyn's actually not that ahead of you here, and you could actually just play on her if you wanted to. I know Kraken feels like a huge spike here, but it's not. Just looking at the damage you do on trades and the way you can control around the minions, all she can do is auto you. She can't Q you through a minion wave. It does no damage. She can't E you through a minion wave as long as you don't step on a trap. A lot of things you could have done better here. Missing a cannon there is awful. Missing that minion is awful. there's a lot of issues here that are losing you a lot of gold. You have 3 CS a minute at 10 minutes into the game, and it's been mostly a 1v1 lane where Caitlyn has just been crashing waves into you and not even poking you, so you've just been able to free CS. You actually would be matching Mythic with her if you were CSing properly, and that probably makes this game feel a lot different.
This is another instance too. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Where you back before you should, so you are sending this wave effectively to meet their wave, kind of in the middle or a little bit forward of middle of the lane here. You want to be crashing this all the way into the tower. You know that Kate's dead and she's not going to be back within the next few minutes. So if you really push, you should be able to do that, and it'll get you as much CS as you can, assuming that you CS it properly. And by the time you get back, usually these two follow-up waves will be met again in the middle because it has bounced off of their tower again.
And
So
half crashing a wave like this, where you have a few minions and then another wave coming to meet their wave, they will meet just in front of their tower, and a good player will just freeze on you here, and you will never be able to play the game for the next like 10 minutes or until your teammates come to help. So
we're gonna
like this, you
sorry.
just want to crash the wave.
Yeah, we're gonna put. I'm gonna try to find a good video that demonstrates this very clearly, and I'll put it in the required reading channel for League of Legends, so you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. This is just bad because your minions are just killing everything.
Yep.
You don't get any of that gold. Here, I know kills are juicy. You shouldn't be going mid. It doesn't matter. All you do is risk dying. This is that moment I was talking about where you really like playing in this nook, and it's just really bad for you because you just can't dodge anything. This is also another situation where you had a potion up in your inventory the entire fight, and you just never used it. Just use your potion the second you get in a fight. It is really vital. That 100 HP you get over that 5 seconds of fighting could literally change the outcome. And then here, don't be indecisive. Make a choice. If it's a mistake, you'll learn about it later and you can improve on it later. But make a choice. Because here you end up walking back and forth for like 7 seconds, channeling recall for 4 seconds, walking back and forth for 7 seconds, and now you're just standing still doing nothing, and now you're finally recalling. If you had just recalled in the first place, you actually would be almost back past your tier 2 tower by now, instead of just hitting base. And this is that's just really bad. Just be more decisive. It's okay to make mistakes. You can look at them later. You can analyze them later. You can be better about them later. Being indecisive in the moment does nothing for anyone. This is another situation where you could have been Wing a cannon minion at tower, that instead you're looking at a fight that you can't do anything about anyway, and you actually almost just walk face first into a Zed, and if I was the Zed, I'd just kill you here. It's really illegal to just walk up to a wave like that without looking at yourself. Be way more aware of your own champion. And then here also, you're going to walk up and die to Zed in the bush. You know he's here. You know he kills you. There's no reason to walk up past the tower. The wave's going to push into you anyway. Here you should be 4-shot trading on the Zed, because he's just giving you free damage. Here you're playing in this Nook again. Yeah, there's no reason to walk up here. You know he's here. You know he's going to kill you. Just really bad in general. Just try and be aware of like what you know. You don't need to ward a bush to know if a champion's there or not. If you see someone pass through a ward into Tribrush and you don't see him come out the other side, you know they're in the Tribrush. You don't have to verify that.
Especially if they can just kill you if you do verify it. Yeah.
And just stand. Think about what you stand to lose based on a choice you make. If you sit at the tower and don't walk up to that bush, the wave will crash to you after 10 seconds, and you wasted 10 seconds, but you caught a wave safely. If you walk up and try and get the wave immediately or ward the bush, maybe if he recalled, you get the wave 10 seconds earlier, or you get none of the wave and die because he was waiting for you there and you knew there was a chance that was the case. So, weigh the cost and risk of the gain and risk of any given action within the game, and just be more cognizant of what you're doing and why you're doing it. we want to, like one of the things I mentioned about not placing traps, we want to make sure that we're placing traps frequently and whenever they're on, up, but we don't want to make sure, like, we don't want to just be throwing our traps all over the ground just to make sure we're throwing traps. We want to be placing them with purpose, and you want to be doing everything in League of Legends with purpose. So, when you're hitting your minions, why are you hitting those minions? Do you want to push? Do you want to hold the wave where it is? Which side of the lane do you want to be in? Do you need to hit an item spike before you can trade? Do you need to hit an item spike before you can play the game? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, ad infinitum. Consider why you're doing everything. And if you really feel confident that you were doing something for a good reason and it went wrong, talk to someone you know is better, and ask them why that was wrong. Here,
You also,
saw Gragas
before you move
on
ahead,
Scuttle.
sorry, Suki, kind of on that same point, when you are confused, when you don't know why something isn't working, I want you to bring that with your VOD. So like when you record your next VOD after you get kind of our feedback and implement it into your gameplay, if there's still something that you don't understand is going wrong, or that you expected it to be different, or you're like, I really didn't know which items to build this game because I am not familiar with their team comp, or I just kind of picked up what I thought was appropriate, right? Come with that question, post it in your VOD submission, and that way we will be able to see kind of where your mindset was, what you were having issues with, and it shows that you're really thinking critically about it, right? So yeah, please do that. Sorry to cut you off, Suki.
Yep. And we just want to make sure we're being cognizant of every decision we make. We are, we're looking to get to push this wave and get a plate here, but we see Gragas on Scuttle a few seconds ago. So if we were watching our mini map, then we would have known and been able to back off this tower instead of giving a free kill. So it's important to be in the moment and paying attention to your mini map, especially while you're just walking to a tower like this. You see him right there. And here you use heal, but it's pretty much guaranteed you're dead no matter what you do. So you don't really want to, you want to think before you use your spells. Am I just dead even if I use it? Do I gain anything from using it? And then this is what I was talking about at the start of the game. You have a preset item build for Jhin, but your preset build is actually the worst Jhin build in 90% of scenarios. You pretty much never build this anymore. There was a time when this was good, about a year and a half ago. It's not good anymore. Shield bow and crit is pretty much always better, especially after the 40% change with IE. So I would delete this item set, and think more in the game about what item is good here on my champion rather than what's the core build on my champion, because most champions don't have a core item build that they just build no matter what. It usually varies. So I think that was a lot of what we were trying to cover with this.
Yeah, I think so. And just so you are aware, Showycolt, we actually ended this VOD review early on our original recording, and now on our second recording, we are going to do the same. Primarily because we want you to get to this point in this game at a much higher strength level, right? A much more even playing field. I think that you go ahead and win this game, if I recall correctly from your tracker. But really, there are plenty of things here that we can get you started on focusing on and working on that are going to impact your gameplay pretty drastically. Whereas if we review the last half of this game, it's probably going to be a lot of, okay, here's what to do in this scenario when you're way behind. Like, I'd rather get you to a point where you're not way behind to begin with. So yeah, I have a bunch of notes for you. We're gonna go over them very briefly, and I am going to make them available to you in the Discord as well, so you can see um, exactly what kind of we're hoping that you will work on. So give me just a moment. Huh. Sorry, I have the capture type weird. So I have to change that real quick. Hold on. Where are all my notepads? Not this one. Okay. There's a notepad. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm going to make this bigger. There we go. Okay. So, here are the specific notes that we were hoping that you might work on just kind of from there. Like we said, kind of at the start, turn off chat and have better focus on what is in your control. So, whether or not your Zac is on the other side of the map or your Tristana is counter jungling level 1, the reality of the situation is you are bot lane 1v2 against a Caitlyn and a Lux. Regardless of what is happening around the map, except for maybe with a jungler that's about to gank, you don't need to be as worried about it. Once you get to a higher level and really get an understanding of like macro and the way that the game is played, you need to have the information, but there's not a lot you can do just by typing to people. Really suggest that you turn off chat and have better focus on kind of what you can do, your sphere of influence. From the micro perspective, use what you can. So whether that be using your E, which I think I saw you do exactly once in the first like 18 minutes of that game, um, using your potions before fights are happening. That way they'll heal you as the fight goes on. And optimizing your auto attack Q into your fourth shot, that little reset that Jhin does get. Um, kind of along the lines here of this micro note, I know that you mentioned in Discord before we recorded this that you were thinking about expanding into other champions. Really, that's going to be a matter of comfort for you. I think, regardless of what champion you're playing, as long as you're comfortable on it and you like it, that's a good champion for you to be on. Some of them might be a little bit more complex, like Callista has her own pretty unique stuff, right? That she might not be great to kind of learn at the very start of play, but if you like her a lot, do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather you be happy and having fun and learning all at the same time. So,
Thing I would like to tack on to that, make sure you're making changes for the right reason. Don't swap champions because you're tilted and you think Jhin is bad or something. Don't try and learn more champions because you think you need answers to other champions. At the level you are playing at, you have never lost a game because your champion is worse than other champions. And end of discussion. Um, that kind of thing does not happen until GM Challenger, and even then, there are plenty of times in Challenger where people are one tricks on Skarner top, Ari support, champions that are very bad, but people are good enough at them to know their strengths and weaknesses and play around them in high level games. At a bronze, silver, gold, even platinum level, it is very rare, I would say, actually, genuinely, it has never happened to you at your level that you've lost a game because you're playing a bad champion. Um, so just make sure that if you're thinking about expanding your champ pool, it's not because you're like, oh, I can't play Jhin into Draven, I should pick up Caitlyn. No, you should not be picking up counter picks at this point in your league career. You should be focusing on the fundamentals, and really any champion is going to facilitate that for you. So if you want to play Caitlyn because you think she's fun, if you want to play Ezreal because you think he's fun, whatever you want to do is okay. Just make sure that you're primarily focused on improving those fundamentals and allowing the champion to be a conduit for that rather than attempting to learn new champions because you think it might be beneficial to you.
yeah. I would recommend against playing all of the ADCs. I don't necessarily think that you need to one trick exclusively Jhin from this point forward until you learn some of this stuff, but I would recommend maybe one or two. That way you're getting comfortable on them and learning about kind of the different principles as opposed to, learning a new champion every other day. That's going to be better for you. And then macro. So very simply, buy a control ward when you have the gold to do so, and you do not have a control ward already. Place that control ward too is kind of the second section of that, but make sure that you're at least picking them up so that when you need vision, you have it. Vision is everyone's responsibility, not just the support's responsibility. Although they have a lot of tools to kind of work with and secure it, everybody needs to kind of be participating in that. So Yeah, that's I think very basically what we have. Obviously, what we went through kind of in the VOD review. There's a lot of kind of notes and tips and that sort of thing. But really, what we're going to be looking at next time you submit a VOD is: have you turned off chat? Have you been focusing on what is in your control? So, for example, not watching top lane while you're running back to bot lane. Just generally upping your micro and buying and utilizing control wards. That's what we're going to be focusing on the most. If you submit a VOD and chat is still on, for example, we are not going to review it. We will reject it, and until you give us one that has chat off, we'll we will wait. So thank you again. I'm super sorry that our first record did not actually record. And that you had to wait for the second recording to come through. But I hope that this stuff does help. And I do want to clarify, we are not. Tsuki is extremely good at this game. I've been playing this game for a long time. We are not trying to get down on you for being bronze or doing some things wrong, but we want to make sure that you understand where the things that you're doing wrong are wrong, and try to give you a limited number of things that you can focus on that should help you a lot in the near future. So yeah, thanks again. Have a good day. Please feel free to ping me on Disc if you have any questions.